Hello there, and welcome to episode 20 of the Rugby Nuts Chat Show. Interesting article about women's rugby from Jeff Probyn this week, mate.
Yeah, I mean, I found it actually very, very interesting. I mean, it actually results from an article a week before from Stephen Jones in the Sunday Times. I don't normally read anything he writes for a reason, but I won't bore you with that this evening, although I could give you the full story. But no, he was basically saying that women's rugby should now go in its own direction. It's basically dominated by men, and therefore the coaching reflects the men's game, which he didn't feel appropriate. And Jeff Probyn agrees with that. He felt that it's becoming too bish-bash. But then he goes on about injuries.
He does. He states himself at the beginning of the article he was worried about writing it because he didn't want to get bashed up. And I can see why, because I've read it a couple of times and I changed my emotions both times I read it, because having quite a lot to do with the ladies' game. He said he didn't want to be seen to be being chauvinist, but that's certainly the way I read it the first time I read it. But I've changed my mind a little bit. What he's saying basically is that some people think the ladies' game is a poor emulation of the men's game because they don't have the physicality to do the bish-bosh, carrying it up, route one, so on and so forth. He acknowledges that it's a tremendously technical game.
Can I just interrupt you? I mean, do we want that game though? I mean, I don't particularly want it in the men's game. I mean, I had this view, as I think a lot of coaches would, that the breakdown, the ruck and the maul is failure. We want to try and keep the ball alive. But rather than engage in contact.
Well, I think he's talking particularly, this article is particularly aimed at the international game.
Yeah.
And it is very, very physical because down at our level, we're three off the bottom. Well, just take my ladies' league, for example. There's two teams. The top two teams, incidentally, that are bish-bash, route one, up the middle. Yeah. But everybody else tries to play rugby and throw the ball around a little bit. Yeah. And I think you're absolutely right. I think the teams are a reflection of the coaching style or the coaching ethos. Yeah. But I think they are very technical. But then when I read this again, it wasn't so much about the technical or about the breakdown. He was more talking about the physiology of the game, about the hip joints, the shoulder joints not being so well protected, more flexible knees, and all that sort of stuff. And he makes the point that there's not been enough research done. Yeah, I think so.
I mean, possibly. Is that true in the game? Is there much about?
Well, there's been an ongoing project. I think you and I have spoken about it before. There's been an ongoing project with Bath University.
So I've engaged in that with men's.
Yeah, the Chris project. Yeah. I think that includes the ladies, but every year their report sort of tends to specialise in an area. I don't remember seeing anything particularly about the ladies. I think it would be interesting to see a study about what the effects of the game have on the different physical makeup. But I do think there's a lot of women that are going to read this report and probably be slightly irked. I get what he's saying. I think he's also made a mistake in that he's talking about the women need to go their own route and perhaps adapt the game, still play rugby, but adapt the game to protect them. Well, actually, they have really, because up until a certain league position, which is the three off the bottom, which is where our ladies are at the moment, the ladies have to play under 19 variations.
Right.
So, no squeeze ball.
Yeah.
1.5 metres in the scrum, and 45 degrees turn. Yeah. All of which were brought in, as he makes the point, for the youngsters to prevent injury.
Yes.
And it was the same for the women. That was the thinking behind it, because when you're at the bottom leagues, you're still learning. You're learning how to protect yourself. You're still putting on the muscle growth around your neck to protect your neck and stuff like that. So there is an attempt to do it. As for changing the rules of the game and blanketing laws, blanketing across the women's game, I don't think you get much support from the women, to be fair.
Yeah, I see where he's coming from, because obviously he's saying that the women's game should have their own set of rules to take into account the physical differences. And as he said, women are greater, they have greater flexibility, etc. Probably less protection of the joints muscle-wise. I mean, you know, I don't really see how you do that without the support of the women's community. They would have to buy into it.
Absolutely, and they would probably take a front over it. I think if you were to make any roads with that as an idea, you would need to be presenting evidence. You know, you'd have to be
now,
showing.
He makes that
stuff.
point. He maintains there's scant evidence about injuries, although he implies that there are injuries which have taken place that are very, very serious but haven't been brought to the attention because of the money that's the Rugby Union and Sport England are putting into the game to try and generate more women playing and make the playing population far more diverse. I mean, how true do you think that observation from Jeff Probyn is?
It's really interesting that the makeup of a ladies rugby team. You get all sorts. You get absolutely all sorts. You get ladies that if you looked at them, you think there is no way would they want to get muddy, let alone smash someone up. And then you turn your back for 2 seconds, and they're absolutely nailing somebody. And then you see, you know, sort of like a stereotypical prop that can't catch, can't throw a ball, just likes to trundle up and down the pitch all day. Does it matter? Because they're getting something out of it. They're enjoying it.
Is there a mismatch, though? He touches on this.
Oh, I didn't like that bit.
In between, say, that you know, you get some experienced players playing with inexperienced people who have just been introduced to the game, which, you know, could be viewed that would increase the chances of injury.
You do see that a lot in the ladies' game, to be fair. You see a lot of really good players that are perhaps in the twilight of their career, having played at a higher level, coming down. Inclusivity is a big message from the game at the bottom, just to get teams going. You know, learn off the better players. You know, you develop better if you're surrounded by better players. You know, same as a lot of walks of life. The teams can be quite diverse, to be fair. They can be a lot more than the men's teams. The only thing that really separates the men's teams these days is age and fitness, isn't it?
Yes, I mean,
with the ladies' game,
it's a wider, gap. As you feel.
I like it. I do like the ladies' game. I mean, it's very empowering for a lot of them. And they like the equality, which is, I go back to my earlier point. I think if you were to convert a lot of the players of the game, I'm not talking about the management, because they probably would have their own sort of ethereal thoughts on it, but if you were to try and convert the players, you better come and bring some evidence.
Right. Okay.
Anyway,
Six Nations.
Six Nations. I think you pointed out during the week that you're 2-1 up.
No, what was it, 3-2? I managed to get the Cardiff results. The Cardiff results spot on. I mean, Wales versus Scotland. I thought you had quite an organised side against. Quite shambolic, quite frankly, from the Scots. I mean, without being too critical, I just wondered whether the press had talked them up because they want a confrontation between England and Scotland, something to write about. Ireland was always going to be hard over there. Weather conditions didn't help. They managed to get themselves out of a hole. And England against Italy, I'd say Italy, you know, had one or two quite talented players there. But, I mean, England were far too strong.
A couple of talented players doesn't make a team, though, does it?
No, it doesn't. And I think they've got a long way to go, as we said last week. Anyway, what about this week? What are your predictions?
Well, I'm going to stick with my banker. I'm going to stay with England.
Right, okay.
I saw what Wales did. And I don't think, frankly, it's going to be enough. After watching Scotland, I'm sorry, Scotland, but I really quite fancied it last week. But I'm afraid France are going to take it if they carry on like they did last week. There was quite a few talented youngsters in there that actually did what they were asked of, I thought.
The French, yeah.
So, that's interesting. Ireland. The head coach of our ladies is a very passionate Irish supporter. And I made the mistake of saying to him on Sunday morning, you fluked to win yesterday. And he went mental. 41 phases is not a fluke. And
well, no, they did. They retained possession.
Yeah, they did,
Particularly well.
I'm going to have to go with Ireland.
Yeah. I think the Welsh game, Wales against England, or England against Wales at Twickenham, they've got a good, England are very strong at home. Like you, Wales impressed last week in terms of their organisation, commitment. But yeah, I think you'd have to go with. I think you'd go with England. I'd endorse that. Scotland against France. Well, I always think with the French, it's what side turns up. Is it is it one game to win?
Which side of the bed do they get out?
Yeah. One match to impress the coach, and then we're playing away from home. I don't know. I don't think Scotland can be as bad again. Although I think that they did struggle against Wales in the set, as we well. I think anyone could forecast that, quite frankly. But I think Scotland at Murrayfield are a different proposition. So I'll back Scotland there. But if they do lose, it's going to be a long, long season for them. Yeah. Ireland, Italy, there's only one side in that. I think Ireland are a good side. It's never easy to win in Paris. Ireland haven't been consistent winners over there over the years. The French are good at home. There's a lot of pride there. I can't see Italy really coming near Ireland.
No. Well, hopefully, actually, listening to those two sets of predictions, neither of us are going to make much ground next week, are we? You've got the roundup for us.
Yes, sir. We start with National 1. Well, Coventry league leaders, and they remain league leaders. File, who were bottom, actually played quite well, but the last 20 minutes, Coventry just pulled away from them, and it was quite a convincing win in the end, 47-3.
Quite convincing.
Second place, Darlington recorded their 7th win on the trot. They beat old Altamians down in Eltham, so it's quite good win for them. 19-14, so they stay in second. And in third place, Ampthill, they could only draw with Loughborough Students. Loughborough Students started well, went through a difficult patch, and right at the end of the game, right on time, came back, scored a try, converted it, and were able to level the game 17-all. In the League 2 North, Sale, their winning streak continues. They were convincing winners over fellow high flyers, Tyndale. Tyndale were up the top there. They've now gone down to fifth. Sale won the game 34-10 and remain at the top with 84 points. Second, we had Hinckley. They also won. They beat South Leicester 34-15 and remain in second. And Stourbridge now come up into third. They had a good away win against Huddersfield. And Sedgley Park didn't have a game, so they're in fourth. I fancy Sale, I think, to win it. They're on a roll at the moment. That's difficult to stop. Out of the others, though, I don't know. I think you have Stourbridge, Hinckley, Sedgley Park, even Tyndale. I think the last 9 games are going to be very, very interesting. In League 2 South, Cinderford won at home. 29-12 over Worthing. Chinner had a hard day in the office against Tonbridge Juddians. They won eventually 14-13, but I think the mud was around the ankles.
Especially when you consider the weather, it must have been right old battle there.
And Tonbridge know how to play that pitch, and at times Chinner did struggle, but they came back, got a win, so they're in second, and it is between those two. I think it's very interesting at the bottom of that league because Wimbledon won at home, Old Redcliffians beat London Irish Wild Geese at home, and Broad Street lost to Redigensian Drabs. I think Broad Street personally will go down, but Wimbledon and Redcliffians, I think they could try. They could put pressure on London Irish and Clifton or above them. So with 9 games to go, it's not all is lost. So I think at the bottom it's going to be particularly exciting. In the regional leagues, Midlands, Birmingham, Solihull are still unbeaten, are still keeping a clean sheet. They beat Longton 22-0. Peterborough Lions who were second. They played third place Newport. And they beat, it was 3-3 at half time, but they came back to win 22-3. And therefore, Peterborough, I think, for me, I would say Birmingham Solihull now have won that league, and Peterborough I think will be in the playoffs.
At half time, I've been asking for your gate money back, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. But again, conditions were bad all over the place. In the north, Preston Grasshoppers, they beat Rossendale 31-14. 7 games to go and they're 20 points ahead. Okay, the other sides have 2 games in hand, but you know, Plymouth look good. Lim are second, and Hull, who beat Billingham 19-7, they stay third. In London, Guernsey are 6 points ahead of Barnes. Now, they beat Sidcup 69-5. And I remember right at the start of the season, we were doing the roundup, and Sidcup were one of the top sides in the London League at that time.
What's happened?
Yeah, I mean, it just happens over the season as it goes on. You have injuries
or
and
whatever.
And so, yeah, I mean, back to Guernsey. Well, can they do it? I don't know. Barnes are still there, and they are experienced, and I sort of have just think they'll be there and thereabouts. And they beat Westcliff 35-7 at home, and Tringstane third. They could come into the reckoning. They beat Southend 25-5. In the southwest, well, Dings a win at Bracknell, good win at Bracknell, 23-19. Bracknell had been going well, I think 5 games on the trot, unbeaten. But Dings managed to take control of that game. They're now 15 points clear in the southwest. And again, I think
they're not unbeaten. They've lost one, haven't they?
Oh, they've lost a couple. Yeah. Maidenhead beat them the other week. I think one or 2 other games they've let slip. But they're 15 points clear of Bournemouth, who are second. They beat Exmouth 28-7. But I think your money has to be on Dings. But then you've got Maidenhead. You have Bournemouth. Capable of getting that playoff spot. Now, I just went through all the first 6 levels, and before the matches last weekend, we had Birmingham Solihull unbeaten, and we had Old Patasians unbeaten in the whole of the country.
Southwest 1 East.
Yep, and Birmingham Solihull, as we know, retained their unbeaten record, but Old Pats, they went down to Banbury.
Of all people.
Yeah, 15-5. Banbury is third in the league. They've got a game in hand, and again, they started off very well. So, Old Pats, well, I still think your money would be on them to actually take that league. But there's some. It's hotting up nicely. You know?
Old Pats have been bouncing up and down between
over the years.
They I think they were 3rd or 4th last season, and they plainly want to go back up. So.
And I think it's obviously in Cheltenham, and they are a good side, and they're very difficult to beat at home. Always very difficult
with the slope.
Yeah. Well, this weekend we've got more, as we know, we've got more internationals, but try and get out. There's National League games on.
Yep.
There's nothing below the National League, so.
But there is cups. There is cups, junior cups, and intermediate cups. We're in a cup match this weekend.
And who have you got?
We're in Southern Counties North. We've got the top riders on Southern County South, who's Sherborne.
That'd be a good
our place. Yeah.
What time are you kicking off? Then?
We're kicking off at 2 o'clock because they've got the international on, and we want to get in for it. So they're bringing a fun bus, so it should be a busy old day.
Okay. Well, Paul's corrected me. There's National League Rugby and there's Cup Rugby. Get out and support the club, get some fresh air, and then come home and watch the Wales-England match.
Cheers. Thanks very much.